We are going to be casting Tailbot versus Bart literally right now. So that is going to happen. Shaggy is facing Dark Kevin, otherwise known as Cybers. But we now are going in to game 1 of the series. Game 1 of the series, Tailbot against Bart. This is the top bracket final, so whoever wins this series has booked their place in the first open already. The loser of this game will go into the lower bracket for a final against the winner of Shaggy and Cybers for the second place in the final. This is going to be pretty great. So, I can't wait.
Here we go. I see we're live.
We are finally live, and it is Tailbot taking his list from Squirtel, Guerrilla Tactics. I'm really, really excited to see this list.
Me as well. Okay, so we begin. And
Okay.
Tailbot is on blue coin with Guerrilla Tactics.
Yeah.
Now, I doubt you want to see this, though. I doubt you want to see this because Callie is not remaining in the melee row under any circumstances.
No, definitely not. There are a lot of control answers and a lot of movement where Tailbot's concerned, so this is going to be real interesting. Tailbot versus Bart here. This is the top bracket final. These two players got all the way to the end. In Bart's hand, still a mulligan left, but you can see Siri. He has found his Anero as well. The difficulty is, do they ever survive? This is going to be a tough matchup for Bart, I think. And there's a Ragnarok. Tailbot's Ragnarok. I keep forgetting that it's in more than one of his lists. Oh, final mulligan, he finds the tiger.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Alright, so it's an ideal opportunity to start with Dunker or the Tiger, depending on which engine you want to start off with.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options he can pick here. Going through, he's just working out the things that have been missed here on the other side. There is no Keltulis on the other side for Bart in hand, also no defender either. And as you say, there are a couple of opening plays. Dunker's an option for opening play with the TA boost, or whether you go for the Sabertooth Tiger and risk. There's no Heatwave on the other side right now, but obviously he doesn't know that. Does just go with the Dunker, and of course the traditional boost. So will we see this get immediately answered, or will Bart simply leave it in place?
That would certainly be interesting to see. Again, this is a nice sort of bait card. Perhaps he is baiting Bart, and you would rather keep onto that Heatwave in case you need it later. Certainly, if you end up getting last say and want to get rid of Gord.
Yeah, and there's a lot of value in Heatwaving an Igon usually, and there's still an argument to do it here because of the amount of carryover you potentially deny with the amount of control he has. It depends, does Tailbot choose to do that or not here? Is this something he's looking at doing? Or does he...
That's the problem, right? That's the problem.
And I think he's labouring over that choice now. Is it worth doing? Is that the option?
I do believe it could be worth it. I do believe it could be worth it. He has a lot of control cards. He has removal for Callie. Honestly, okay, he decides not to do it yet. Instead, he sets up his engine. That also makes sense.
I quite like the Sabertooth Tiger, but he turns Dunker off to damage. That's interesting.
That certainly is interesting.
And I suppose he's threatening now. If you don't consume this, a single leader charge and a bomb, and your Igon has completely gone here. Or, I mean, are you looking potentially... Is there an argument that this is going to Imlerith Wrath that? He knows the engine's going to get shut down so quickly with the Igon on board that perhaps it's just worth turning it off straight away. He's got a tiny bit.
Well, they're certainly not sure themselves.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I mean, you don't have to touch the Dunka anymore. She's shut off now. Instead, you might want to target that Sabertooth Tiger. Perhaps he's baiting out Heatwave himself. Instead, he goes for the engine. That also makes sense. But you do want to get Siri Dash on the board first or second play. So I'm thinking he doesn't do that yet. He might be holding that for the next round.
Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense. I think he's worried when he can drop that. Obviously, he's on red coin. He doesn't necessarily need to try and flip the coin here. And I've just realised, I'm looking through Bart's list. In my head, there's always a consume. There isn't actually, from what I can see, any consume in the list of Bart. So he knows, and obviously Tailbot will know that, there are no consumes on the other side. So without protecting that with a defender, there is a good chance that simply just gets removed.
I agree, and he has already committed to Dunker's charge, so I doubt he'll use Heatwave on Igon unless it's absolutely necessary. What I do want to see is those bombs being played. I want to see Maddock coming out onto the board. I wonder if Maddock ever gets Heatwave in this sort of match. That
It's
would
an
be very
interesting one. If obviously Heat-Waving Maddock can sometimes be okay, and in the Nilfgaard matchup where, which we will see later on, where Tailbot potentially has two, perhaps, but he's used making a bomb now, which I completely understand. Is Tailbot now thinking, do I ever just remove this, or do I leave it there and force you to play front row? Because we know now that Eigen is dead. There's no additional armor, there's no protecting this. So is he going to drop something like the dash to force a different line? Or does he just simply choose to get away here? What's his choice?
That depends.
Tough
Does he
for
want
Bart.
round control? I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does, especially when playing Kelly. You'd like round control at all costs. And what he's done now is he's placed 2 units on 2 different rows, meaning you can only deal with 1 unit at a time if you're trying to get away from the saber-toothed tiger. That's always very fun to see, but he can very well do that again with a simple leader charge.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wants to keep that though, but he does have it at his disposal.
And he removes the saber-toothed tiger here. That engine can do serious work through the course of this round and can be really scary. I mean, if he clips the Maddock here and uses the other bomb, he's finding really nice value removing that Eigen and sort of taking control of the round here, so I could see that being a line that he might take. For those of you, Ragnarug is a card that spawns Cataclysm. I know it's a weird card. It's basically the effect that Maddock creates. It pings 3 times for multiple turns. So it's a card that won't find a huge amount of value in this matchup, I wouldn't imagine. But it's always going to find 12. It's going to find 12 points of value if you get it in time, provided the reunits.
Yes, Cataclysm spawns for 4 turns, which is quite nice. And like you said, it targets 3 cards at random, or, well, the same card for 3 times. It's very much like Maddock in that sense. But I find it interesting that he got rid of the saber-toothed tiger, meaning he's more adamant on winning the first round than looking at the future. I thought he might have actually heat-waved Maddock there in that instance, because Maddock will keep coming back every single turn that you play a bomb. I see Ragnarok there as a potential card now, in all honesty. It would be interesting if that came out.
I'm curious.
I wonder where to find value.
The line there, Tailbot's decided to take the engine out instead, which makes sense. He was guaranteeing that it was removed because he'd already clipped Maddock. I think he was hoping Maddock would spawn on the other row. Of course, Maddock, in true fashion, never spawns on the row that you want him. I'm sure that's actually part of the card.
I'm sure that's in the code, and you can't convince me otherwise. That and Nickers,
of course,
they were programmed to come out when you need them the least, is
Definitely.
what I think.
Definitely.
Okay,
now, there's plenty of options here. Does he just take the heat wave on this? He doesn't necessarily need to. He can lead a charge if he wants to move the Ciri into the other row, use his Maddock. They are options that are available.
Well, you can do one of 2 things here. You can pass, which I doubt he wants to do, or you can get rid of Ciri, because that's almost just as bad as not passing. He is going to end up having an extra card, meaning Tailbot will not have last say, and Gorge will be failed to die. That's Definitely. If he gets to use Imlerus Wrath, seeing that he already committed his heat wave on the saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah, and we do see that heat wave come down. I think he'd and that Tailbot deciding we're going to go all in. I'm going to clear your board. It's a shame. The Forest Protector in his hand at the moment is effectively a brick. No nature cards have already been played yet. I think he would much rather have been able to perhaps use the damage from one of those with a rebuke, if it was available. Of course, none in his hand. Now the Imlerus Wrath on the other side trades for absolutely nothing, and it looks like we're going to get an Osril consume nice and early here from Bart to try and stay in this round.
That's a lot of committal. I find it interesting that Tailbot used Danka's charge so early on. Perhaps it's to get that value out of her before she's removed. But if he knew in retrospect she would have survived that long, perhaps he could have gotten a little bit more carryover. But he obviously wanted to scare Bart perhaps into a short round 1 and have him pass or overcommit.
Yeah.
So that's certainly very interesting to see from Tailbot's side.
I mean, it makes sense, I suppose. He knows if the engine stays ticking, there's a very good chance it gets removed. And we have seen the Ragnarug. We know Ragnarug is going to find maximum value here if the round goes that long. And right now, it's simply going to be, how tall can we get this unit? The miner there to add armor. It's not going to add a huge amount. It will boost, of course. It'll be interesting to see what the line is here. Bart is pushing, remember. He is on the other coin. And Bart is looking to stay ahead on even. Tailbot can't really get out here. And at the moment, he's only got 1 card left in his hand he actually wants to play. And really, he doesn't want to play any of these. The Gourd right now represents 7, which is very sad. The Forest Protector, a brick in itself. It is just 6 points, and you lose so much value in that situation. So really, he's left with just a Synthesis to play here, and Bart will know the more he pushes down, the harder it's going to be. Of course, on the other side of that as well, no real units and lots of power. Bart's hand was looking sketchy, all of a sudden not looking terrible.
No, Bart has an excellent hand. Bart can play every single card in his hand and get away with it. But Tailbot doesn't know this. Tailbot might think he has something like Kelly in the hand, and maybe he wants to get it out. Maybe he's willing to commit a little bit and see what Bart is prepared to play. And then we see Size Synthesis coming out. I might even consider seeing another leader charge being used, but I think he wants that full Cataclysm value before he passes. I think that would make sense.
I think the difficulty is there isn't a card he wants to play now, but equally I don't think he wants to lose. He doesn't want to lose the round here, and if I'm more likely to drop the Gourd now than the Forest Protector, because the Gourd is technically not a brick. But what does Tailbot do here? Do you ever just say, these cards are too valuable, I'm going to take the loss on even, I have to deal with the fact that that's where we are, and try and get away with it? That's a really tough place to be against Kelly. Or do you put the Gourd, it gets you ahead, it's 7 points on its own, and there is 3 more points of Cataclysm. So, I mean, if you're Tailbot, you can't lose this round, right?
No, you certainly can't. You're in a very bad position if you lose this round, and you're not getting full value on any of the cards in your hand. You're going to be trading down, and you never want to see that. Again, he doesn't know what Bart has in his hand.
Wow, and he does take the pass.
Okay.
This is tough for Tailbot. He's obviously looked at the cards in his hand and decided they are more valuable to play for full points later, and he has a better shot at doing this. The Osrule from Bart there, really clever, because it looks like I'm giving a huge amount of value, but to be able to push and take that round on even here is huge for Bart.
It certainly is. Bart did extremely well in that round. He committed quite a bit, and Tailbot didn't give in to the pressure. He kept his Gorge, he kept his Forest Protector, and yeah, this will be very interesting to see. I wonder if Bart ever takes the pass here, or if he decides to commit something like Kelly. He just needs to make sure he has cards in his hand that is interactive enough. So he has a Squirrel, he has Nithril. He could very well commit here if he wanted to. He could very well commit.
Yeah, he definitely can. We can see Novigradian Injustice, something that we weren't necessarily expecting to see as much of after the rework in an ST list. It's going to be interesting to see which line Tailbot goes here, because he can be bled of his better cards. Interestingly, chose not to mulligan, or rather couldn't really mulligan either of the cards, although he has been able to unbrick that Forest Protector. Doesn't really just want to drop the removal though. This is a tough one for him, because if he just drops that Rebuke now, it's effectively 0-0. That is the line he takes. Bart could potentially then get the double lasso if he wants to go down that line. The big thing for Tailbot, he's missed a Nero, and he's missed it twice. So that's really difficult for Tailbot.
You never want to see that happen, but it happens so much anyway. Yeah. I doubt Bart ever passes at this point. I think he's going to do exactly what I thought Tailbot was going to do. He's going to push and see if he can trade up. He wants Tailbot to start committing those big cards that are very clearly still in his hand or deck. So I doubt he passes here.
I mean, the difficulty on his side is Nithril. If he plays Nithril, he uses his final leader charge. Not necessarily the position you want to be in unless you're going full Smork here for Bart. I'm not sure whether he's got second De Niro, not first. I think if he'd got first De Niromancy, he'd be a lot more comfortable with this push. So I'm interested to see what Bart does here. Does he just drop Nithril? If he does, I think he has to leader charge it, or he's really unhappy. If he doesn't drop that leader charge, oh no. Oh, I think that might be a mistake.
The problem here is, Nithril never survives no matter what, so we're not even afraid of Nature's Rebuke. We're afraid of guerrilla tactics that can very easily just move it back into the range row. But we do see Forest Protector coming out, so that's a nice 8 points right there. He gets the death blow. Very nice for Tailbot. So Bart now has to decide, am I going all in here or am I passing? It's looking more like a pass in my opinion. It's looking a lot more like a pass. If you want Callie on the board, you're going to want her in a long round and not in the short A round, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he could choose to potentially try and trade, as you say. He could push here and drop the Parasite, or he could just discard He takes the option to discard here, thinking I'm going to trade up. Doesn't realise there is a very, very average 4 for 4 sat in the hand, and that feels really bad for Bart. Nithril obviously being on the board, it is row-locked as an engine. The issue, boosting it would always have turned it off, but it would have meant that it was harder to get ahead, and you wouldn't have got the death blow value on the Forest Protector there, which was why I was interested to see if he went down that line, but he never wants to use that last charge, I don't think.
It's problematic, right? He already discarded one card here.
Now.
He's definitely playing Parasites and hoping he gets something out of Tailbot. And I mean, he does. He does get something out of Tailbot. Novigradian is still a very strong card. Novigradian Justice still plays for a lot if you have the correct cards in your deck. Even though it's been nerfed,
now, right?
if you can play it, it's a great card to have.
Really nice from Bart there. He removes the Dwarf at 4 points rather than taking full value, because now Novigradian Justice will effectively not... the new version of Novigradian Justice, play a Bronze Dwarf or Crown Split from your deck, and if you already control one, spawn, which means he doesn't. As a result, he has to play the Gourd here. That's huge from Bart to force that. He is so happy right now, because Novigradian Justice is not a viable option at all. That's really, really nice there. The new version of that, very scary, and really nice potential hand read.
That was an excellent play from Bart. It's almost like he knew exactly what it was in Tailbot's hand, which is impossible, of course.
Oh, yes, indeed.
But that's some great clairvoyancy right there on Bart's end. Some great experience coming through right there. Wow, okay. It's looking good for Bart at the moment.
Oh my, that is... Tailbot's hand is not as happy as you'd like it to be. Not as happy as you would like it to be here. Although on the other side, that Spores is going to trade for absolutely nothing. So that is a 0-point card on the other side of the board. I don't think Spores finds any value at all. Kelly, this is going to be close here. Closer than it looks, I think. Kelly obviously finds no value anyway because of movement engines. We might see the Defender come out to absorb at least some of that, but all of the cards in Tailbot's hand generate points. Not the case on Bart's side. I think this is closer than it looks.
It could potentially be closer. I don't think he ever plays Kelly first. I think he plays Kelly the moment he gets that one turn of value from Kelly. Otherwise, Caltulus just gets moved and she doesn't do anything. Yeah. So I think he might go uninteractive here for a bit. I mean, Pyrotechnician is already on the board. That's a very nice little deterrent right there. He might use the T-Bomb. Instead, he decides to discard.
And now we've got the Thin, so now Novigradian Justice. Are we going to find... So D-Bomb is now going to find value. That makes sense. Kelly represents immediately 9 points plus removal, but here there is another Pyrotechnician in the deck. So Justice, not a brick. And as a result here, Kelly is going to have a single turn with a single 4-point burn. So Kelly represents 13 points. Is that going to be enough? Because Kelly immediately gets turned off with making a bomb, and then both leader charges. So it's now up to Bart. When do you play the Kelly? I think Bart has to play for the greed here.
The thing is, Kelly never survives. Kelly gets one turn. So whether you play Kelly now or in the next turn, it doesn't really matter. She gets the same amount of value every time, because she will only get to be used once. So she'll be getting rid of potential Pyrotechnician.
Now this is really interesting from Tailbot. He's used his leader charges here to potentially bait the Keltulus, because of course the card remaining in hand is making a bomb. It's really interesting to see. Does he go for the Cave Troll? Actually, can the Cave Troll, if he plays Cave Troll now, making a bomb effectively plays for 0 points, but does enable a double snipe from the Pyrotex, so that's another 4 points. The Cave Troll will be at 3, leader's 6. Wait. Oh my lord.
I think you always go for the Defender here, right? It's always the Defender.
Oh, Maddock. I think Maddock clutches this. Maddock didn't get heat waved earlier. I think Maddock clutches this game. Oh my lord. I don't think it matters either way here, unless I'm missing something. I'm pretty sure Tailbot takes this.
Maddock was in fact squirreled, so
okay. Maddock was squirreled. That's fine. Okay, Maddock's gone. Yeah. Does he still win by 2 though? Does he still win by? Because making a bomb now trades for 4. This trades for another and another, and the highest. I don't believe there is a 14-point card because we had to use the Osral. Normally there would be, and unbelievably, in an unfavoured matchup, losing on even, having had to give Gord in the bleed, Tailbot takes the first game against Bart. Tail God, making believers out of all of us. Wow.
I mean, Tailbot was always favored in this matchup, but very well played. I mean, if you're going to have guerrilla tactics when it comes to something like a Cali deck, you can already get rid of Caltulis, you can get rid of Nithrol. You're in a very good position here. And also you have your control cards like Heatwave, you have Parasite. Well, Parasite is a what Bart had. Sorry.
Bart played that nearly perfectly. I honestly can't... Bart played that so well, and yet still... that's an astounding line. Tailbot has played that, and equally Tailbot has played that really well. I don't think there was anything that Bart could have done differently there. The win on even is fantastic. The bleed to get great cards out is fantastic. I mean, Tailbot through the whole of that misses a Nero. Like that, everything lines up so well for Bart there. And yet still, Tail God himself finds a way to carry on. Wow.
I mean, that was very fun to see. Like I said, unfortunate matchup there. At least Guerrilla Tactics is now out of the way. We can still play Cali if need be.
So, we now flip coins, right? So we've now gone on to the other coins here. So, Tailbot now is on red coin and Bart is going in on blue coin. These players, when they've been playing these matchups so far, Tailbot's list has a lot of red coin decks. A lot of things he's pretty happy with. A Swarm was okay for either, but he seemed to have preferred taking it on red. He has always taken his SK Blaze of Glory Maddock list, which I am so excited to see. He's played that on red every time, and he prefers his Lockdown Double Maddock on red as well. Nilfgaard not exactly renowned for proactivity. I think either of all of Bart's lists you could play on blue. So I don't think he'll play Kelly again. I don't think he re-queues Kelly yet. I assume he goes for the push on red coin to take card advantage with Siri.
Yeah, on blue coin, Bart has two options, I'd say. Northern Realms is definitely a blue coin sort of list at the moment. You always want that Veil on your Witcher. So it's either Squirtle or it is Northern Realms Witches. But like you said, I doubt he plays Cali a second time right now.
No, I think he'll wait for that. And we see... Okay, so Bart takes the Nature's Gift Devotion list, and we do get to see Tailbot with Maddock Blaze of Glory. Now, some of you may not even have played Blaze of Glory at this point. And honestly, it's not a leader I have played a lot. It's going to be really interesting to see Tailbot use this. You take a card from your grave, you damage your opponent by that amount of value. And in this list, it used to be Juta that would be the card you'd play, because it would 12 points of damage, and often you would renew the card back or play Sigdrifer's Right, things like that. In this list, it is standard Morkvarg, not Gatling Gun Morkvarg, but standard Morkvarg, because it jumps back out.
It's certainly a very interesting list. I haven't seen one like it yet. I love the fact that Esco is in it. I like that we have Maxi, and I like that we have Maddock once again. Also, we have Trigvi, which has he has crept his way back into the meta, which I find very interesting. I find it extremely interesting that Trigvi is now meta again. But it will certainly be interesting seeing Trigvi against a list that runs Purify. Okay,
so we can see on the ST side, hands looking... There's a Gord in hand on blue in round 1, so if you get pushed all the way to the end, you may have to drop that. No Eskel on the other side. I wanted to see an Eskel opener from Tailbot. It's what I've dreamed of. You can technically still get it. He is, of course, a Witcher, so Geralt Quen can grab that. But I was really looking forward to seeing just a random Eskel dropped. It's not the same in an open deck list, but from Bart's side, we see the standard. I'm going to play a Hammer Dryad. It's going to go super tall. And if I can get your Morkvarg in round 1, I'm kind of happy.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be the play there. A shame. You were excited to see Eskel. I remember you telling me you wanted to see Eskel. It's really happened, chat. But it's alright. It is alright. We shall see Eskel soon. We shall see it soon.
I love that line. Now, if you see, that Dimetrium Bomb gives Veil to the Hammer Dryad, which means no more vitality for Mr. Hammer Dryad, as in the recent patch, the ability to add more value onto something that already had it behind Veil is now gone, is my understanding. So... that's it. It's now effectively locked, or as good as locked, from Bart's point of view unless he purifies it, which I don't think he does. That's a really clever play, and there is Maddock jumping out to the board in Skellige of all things. I love this list.
It's the first time I've seen it. I'm quite impressed, I must say. Also, it's going to be a very uninteractive list. And it has a lot of control, which is what you want when you're going to be playing against a sort of engine movement list here. So those bombs are going to come in extremely handy. Now,
Definitely.
we have 2 banish bombs still. It doesn't matter what they are going to be
They are
used on.
purify bombs. That's Moondust.
So it's Moondust. I see. It's Moondust.
Useful for the defender here, actually. There is a banish bomb in deck, but not going to be too relevant in this particular matchup, other than just the 4 points of damage. As long as he doesn't misclick and hit his own Maddock, he should be fine on that side. The Moondust could be interesting because it will get straight through the defender, fingers crossed, on his side, and he's got both of them in hand. It's an interesting... you can see the Morkvarg remaining there will be the leader target. And what
we've got
Red is
quite a
deciding
bomb.
right now.
Got the bomb, the Moondust, and Northern Wind. So he's got 2 Moondust bombs, which actually works in his favor in this specific matchup. It works very nicely. I think they knew they weren't going to be playing against Lippy in the qualies because then Northern Wind comes in more handy as it banishes cards and it makes playing Ceres a bit impossible. But yes, so we still have 2 Purify bombs, which will be very nicely if Bart decides to commit any sort of Vitality or leader charges here.
Yeah, definitely. We've just seen Tailbot play Maxi Van Decker, a card that has appeared in the meta more recently. Oh, and we just get the removal there. Probably not what Bart wanted, as we can just get this return. Probably wasn't what he was looking to do there, but never mind. And we do see a Circle of Life. We get the random buff going onto Gord. Nice. Okay, won't be too unhappy about it going onto that. Interesting to see. I don't know, we can't confirm if Maxi actually shuffled the deck or not. Be interesting to see if that was a decision that they made. And instead, Burner thinning again. We can now see what cards are going to go back. I'd assume the discard card because it will jump out on the board. But what else is he going to return here? Do you pop one of those bombs back as you don't really need? No, he does not. The Bear Witcher goes.
I'm sure he keeps them. And he finds a Skirmisher, which is always nice. That's 4 extra points, and it's thinning the deck at the same time. And we see a Cat Witcher engine coming onto the board.
Now, how these can be really scary. Obviously, they got a little bit of a nerf, quite necessary. The adrenaline change, as you rightly called, Moondust coming out really nicely, and Maddox spawning on a nice row to remove that vitality on the Cat Witcher as well.
Okay, well, that boost was very necessary, as the Cat Witcher would have been removed if not for it. But he is missing out on 1 more point there that he would have gotten. So how much are we willing to commit at this point is the question.
Totem's a really nice card for the pass, potentially, into the second round if you're looking to push for a 2-0. But do you try and play it now? The Cat Witcher may potentially absorb a ping from this. He does play it, okay. He is choosing to play it now. Interesting. He definitely wants round control here. Tailbot doesn't want to be in a situation where he isn't in control of this matchup. It's incredible how important last say and resisting that bleed can be. Oh,
it's extremely important, especially when you're playing against Gord every single time.
Yeah, and now the Cat Witcher is active at his adrenaline, which means it's doing 2 damage a turn, and that we just saw the totem is effectively useless now because it will do 2 damage and it will buff effectively the other unit by 2. So
it will cancel out essentially, so it does nothing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Wow.
You kind of have to hope that the Cat Witcher just targets the card for you, right? That would be nice to see, and very unlucky for Tailbot.
And I love this line here from Tailbot. He's put a shielded unit in the way so he can still use. He's used his Maddock for effectively +2 and brought out a shielded Bear Witcher so that the damage it does to itself doesn't happen. As a result, playing it effectively for 11 off that, which really nice line there from Tailbot. Making sure he stays ahead. That's a lot of tempo with it being able to click that again.
Yeah, that was an extremely nice play. I enjoyed seeing that. Now, Morkvarg finds a little bit of value here. Tryggvi, not so much. Tryggvi doesn't find a lot of value, unfortunately. Most he will be getting is probably 4 points with the Pyrotechnician, I guess. Does he ever do it, though?
This is going to be interesting. He's going to use this boost here. Now, as Tailbot, you have the ability, if he'd gone for the Vitality to remove that. He hasn't, which has made his life easier. But, I mean, it's a free Morkvarg at this stage. It's a 9 points of removal Morkvarg if he chooses to go down that line. I'd be really surprised if he didn't. Holding this and again pushing here to be ahead on even. Now Bart is in the opposite situation. Do I commit my defender? If I do, that's a problem. Do I give my 11-point Gord here, one of my biggest win conditions, now that I know Morkvarg has gone? It's a tough situation for Bart now. Does he commit this, or does he also pass at 2 cards losing on even and be in the opposite position?
It's a problem, right? It's a big problem. I believe Bart can take the first round if he wishes to go all in. The problem is, I don't know if he is willing to do so. Tailbot still has some tool removal. I believe Heatwave was not yet played. I cannot access the graveyard, but if he still has it, then Gord is essentially killed if Bart does not have Lost Say.
Yeah. Bart's gone down a few greedy lines to try and get a pass here, and he does drop that now, which might get him out. I mean, he's ahead now by a decent amount, but as you say, Tailbot, he really wants to get out here. Tailbot could very easily commit Leader. Leader effectively works for 10, and then the bomb saves Tryggvi. It's some decent lines here if he wants to stay in this round.
There's no reason for Tailbot not to push here. There's no reason whatsoever. I think he's willing to go all in if necessary. I think the Moondust would be the correct play here, depending on whether he wants to stay ahead or not.
I think he
does. Because if he
does.
Tryggvi now, Tryggvi will play for 5, and it will damage the Pyrotechnician by 4. So
Correct,
that would be 9 points, essentially
More than
putting
enough.
him ahead. No, it doesn't put him ahead though. It
No.
would be even, I think, because of the 1 boost that's still on the
That's correct,
token right.
But that is the line that he takes. So that 1 tick here. So now it instantly takes the pass. So Tailbot, does he ever? I was going to say, does he ever pass here? Does he ever pass right now with his leader? He's got full leader, effective removal. If you're Tailbot there, I actually don't hate the pass, if I'm being completely honest. But let's see if he hates it after he draws. Okay. Oh, nice find from Bart there. Knowing that this is the final... Wow. Okay, Bart's hand looking particularly tasty in comparison. And Tailbot's not looking quite so great, if I'm being honest. Yikes. But Brockvar Hunter can trade for a lot of points. That leader ability, you're expecting... Does Bart greed here? No. Okay. So he takes the defender, which I assume means Purify Bomb immediately, right? Yeah.
Oh, 100%. 100%. You definitely want to get that out of the
Talented
way.
Maddock. Maddock spawns on the correct row. You love to see it. And I'm curious if Tailbot holds the charge here or not. He doesn't. He uses the charge. The only reason perhaps was to remove the 6-point body if you wanted to go that way of Ethne with your leader ability, but there's no need to do that.
Yeah, you also don't know if Bart actually drew Ethne in this case. Keep in mind, Tailbot still has his leader ability, so he still has quite a bit of damage if he wishes to use it. He
Makes
could
sense.
use it now. He could go all in if he really wanted to. I wonder if that's the call he decides to use. He could still get value out of Maddock. He decides to use Maddock, and I think we might see that bomb coming out.
It makes sense. He'll Bear Witcher first, so that he can get the Hankaduk value. Obviously, he can get the 3 points of heal as well. I mean, the leader is the big swing here. The leader is the big swing here for me because it's 5 points of removal plus a 5-point body coming to the board. Taking that final mulligan and not hitting the Morkvarg feels really good. It could be the swing here. If you're Bart with these 3 choices, yeah, I think you have to take that, right? The Hammer Dryad is literally just a 4-point body.
100%.
Now, what? And I suppose that has to be your removal target now, because that represents 8 points of value. If you're Tailbot, so he's got 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. Ooh, there's a lot more points than it looks like on Tailbot's side of the board. Blaze plays for a 10 with the Morkvarg, assuming that's the line he goes down, which I think it is. The bomb is worth 7, and there's another 4 points on the board. That's a lot of points. How does Tailbot keep getting into this?
Yeah, he's in a good position here. He's in a very good position. Question is, does he commit his leader as well? I'd say he does.
They drew round 1,
Yeah.
right? He hasn't got a choice.
I think we're going for a potential 2-0 here, and Tailbot is deciding whether it's worth it. He's doing a little bit of calculations, decides to go with Northern Wind. Maddox comes out, melee row. You love to see it, though you can't use it.
Hand to hand, Tailbot has no right to win this.
Yeah.
Tailbot has no right to win this hand to hand at all. And yet, astoundingly, the highest value from this is 8. I can't believe. Oh my lord. How it's a double draw, which oh no. It's a double draw. Wow.
Wow. That is something to see. My goodness, Blaze of Glory versus Nature's Gift. I mean, in a different sort of matchup, if it was just your normal Scaliger Warriors sort of matchup against Nature's Gift, it could have had a different result, but this is a totally different deck. This is Blaze of Glory, and it's unseen. We didn't get to see Eskel, unfortunately, but that was a very good game. I love the way Bart played that. I truly love the way he played it.
I honestly, looking at the but when we go into round 2, Mr. Repek is opening kegs. Our stream has been yoinked. This is not me. I am not guilty. Blame Repek. Blame Repek. We will return to your regularly scheduled broadcast very shortly. So going into that previous matchup, the first round was a draw. The second round then also a draw. Really unusual. Tailbot taking that line and then drawing what I deemed to be quite a poor hand in comparison. If I was in that situation, I would have much, much preferred Bart's hand, and yet Tailbot somehow maximises his point value, does so well there, and obviously did the math, and manages to get himself a drawing. Wow.
That was very fun to see, and I'm kind of glad we get to see another game here. I don't want it to end just yet. I haven't seen these lists in a very long time, and it's quite fun seeing them now, but is Shoop coming back, or am I...
No, there's no more Shoop. There's no more Shoop. We have gone into the next game here. So it's currently still 1-0. We have to replay that game now. Same coin, same lists, so we can see what will happen this time. What will happen this time?
Now, it will be interesting to see if they played any differently, seeing that they just played against each other. I'm sure they've studied these decks, so I don't think there will be a lot of change, but also they get a sort of feel for each other and the way they're playing these decks. Perhaps their game plan, knowing they're playing against a certain player, Bart against Tailbot, Tailbot against Bart, but they're on the same team, so I guess they know each other pretty well by now. Perhaps we see the exact same game, who knows? Maybe the draws are different, maybe we get the cards we want in round 1. Let us see.
I'm liking Tailbot's hand here a little more than I did last time. An easy first play here from Bart, just drops out the Pyrotech, but I do see an Eskel, which makes me very happy. Nice looking hand. He can thin a little on Tailbot's side. Maddock obviously not jumped out as a brick. Morkvarg was able to be mulliganed away. So no Maxi Van Decker to mix things up and just drop pure points. But finally, much to my delight, chat, we will get to see the play I'm looking for. Maddock, of course, jumping out into the wrong row after that D-bomb. You love to see it.
Oh, of course. Again, this is how it's programmed. We know this. And CDPR cannot convince us otherwise. Maddock is supposed to spawn at least a few times on the wrong row, I'm sure of it.
100%.
Or else RNG is just not very happy with us.
So
we do see that Hammer Pride coming out. We see it getting boosted. That is the correct play in this matchup.
And now I think we see D-bomb again. We saw Tailbot do this last time, effectively denying the value. No, he doesn't. He takes the Brockvar Hunter this time instead, just to set up the engine value. That's interesting. But I suppose he can do it at any point. If it gets too tall, maybe in this situation, he doesn't want to have to use Heatwave on that this time. He's got Morkvarg, maybe as a choice, but I don't think he's ever going to drop that. And if he's not getting more than sort of 10 points of value on it.
Well, this is a sort of 50-50 for a Pyrotechnician, because if it gets rid of Maddock, that is great. That's what you want to see, because Tailbot had no value with Maddock anyway, so he kills the Brockvar Hunter anyway. Alright.
I think he was desperate to snipe the Brockvar Hunter there. He'd have been a lot happier to see that engine go. He could have potentially made a different choice of his lines then, but now he's had to use the card. It's never the end of the world using a Rebuke, especially in a matchup like this, because it just enables you to play your Forest Protector. Bart now not going down the greedier line this time, Although there's lots of points spread evenly, keeping one target particularly tall. Okay, we are going to see a 1 power base power token go to 11 eventually, but it could have been a lot taller. On the Hammer Dryad, not going greedy when you know your opponent has tall removal definitely makes sense. You have to spread those points out.
Are we trying to get him to commit Moondust by any chance?
I think you definitely get the Moondust here.
To get that out, yeah. So perhaps he's keeping his leader charges for something like Hammer Dryad later, and is seeing whether he's willing to commit anything here. If he saw Tailbot's hand, I think he would push, because there's a lot of removal right there. You've got Heatwave, you've got Morkvarg. Though, do we see an engine right now, or do we see a bomb? That is the question. I'd like to see Eskel myself. But it depends.
I think we see the bomb. I'd be surprised if he doesn't take that Purify value. That bomb effectively plays for 11 here, and fine. Obviously, now there are units on both rows. You see good value. The Bear Abomination as well, and Bart gives the round up. Okay, Bart's decided, I'm done, I'm out, and that's interesting here. He doesn't want to be in the situation he was in previously. And we do finally see Eskel, however fleetingly Eskel comes out to take the round. He doesn't want to be pushed in the position he was before. He's found himself an out. He's decided, you know what, I don't want to be pushed to lose on even. I got out lucky last time. I do not want to be in that situation again. But he does give up round control to do it, which is quite scary on his behalf.
It's extremely scary, seeing that he has some tall removals, tall units, and the fact that Tailbot has tall removal is very problematic, because if you don't have last say, then Gord just gets sniped, either with Morkvarg or Heatwave.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see the players change their tactics if they're playing a second game against each other. He did get one Moondust bomb out, though. He did get one of it. We'll see how much that helps in a longer round.
Definitely. Now he's got both the location and Svalblood Totem here. As you say, last say can be really important, but I can't see him not pushing here. I think he has to push just for the long round value. Bart would end up out-engineing him, and the Totem as his last mulligan is such a great card to find in this situation.
100%, 100%. I mean, you always push, but you kind of have to keep up the pace so you don't fall behind and lose one of your cards. Again, he still has his leader, which is some nice control if you need it. It's extremely nice to get rid of some potential engines, something like Hammer Dryad perhaps, something like the Defender, if need be.
And he's going with the Forest Protector here to make sure he stays ahead. Denies a lot of points there as well. The Forest Protector obviously not bricked. We saw the Rebuke come down in round 1. Reduces the value of that totem. You take out a 4-point body, which would have been a 6-point body, and get the Death Blow as well. So he's going to feel pretty good about that. He knows it's a big card to commit, but it's a big card on both sides. And he'll be quite happy, I think, all things considered, to have taken that trade.
100%. Yeah, Bart definitely wants to keep up the pace here. A Tailbot has given him a chance, and he now has to withstand the bleed. If he withstands the bleed, he gets last say, and he likely takes the game.
Nice.
So I am prepared to see Bart commit here, substantially if need be.
I think, well, he hasn't got much choice. But the Skald finds the Skirmisher, a very, very well seen pairing. And you also get Maddock on the right row. Maddock definitely Team Tailbot here. Jumps out to the right place. We get the Purify Bomb out from that Defender. That has been and gone.
Very nice.
And from Bart's side, you're kind of happy with that. As it's weird to think I'm happy to see my my Defender purified, but there's a lot less Purify options now for your other choices, right? In terms of the Vitality. But equally, you don't want to go too tall. Wow, goes Pavko.
Very nice. Always nice seeing a familiar face on the board. Well, that in itself is a great engine. Now, Maddock might find value here. Question is, does Tailbot commit a card here? Is he going to take the chance by playing a bomb or either the Witcher? The Witcher will go for 3. So perhaps he gets lucky with Maddock, though I doubt it. I doubt it.
I mean, if he uses the bomb, he clicks Maddock first, always. The choice here is leaving Berza on board can be really, really dangerous. Are you looking to guarantee removing that? Because it's a really strong engine for per turn. I don't know if he wants to Heatwave it. It's quite a commitment. I'd take it back.
No.
He does want to Heatwave it. He does want to Heatwave it.
Dear.
It's 2 points a turn. I can see, as Tailbot, I can see the logic. He doesn't try and high roll with Maddock. It's so scary.
Well, the problem here is I immediately thought bait, bait, bait. It's a massive red flag right there. We are going to have very tall units in this matchup, and we just lost one of our tall removals. Now we have Morgvarg. Is Morgvarg going to cut it is the question. Is he going to cut it? And is he going to have last say? Because it's looking less likely by the turn here. Bart is keeping up quite nicely.
Morkvarg will always find some value in this matchup with how tall things have to go. And it's when you choose to use it. Obviously, with Last Say, it's your final card, you get gored, you're very happy. At the moment, though, the Defender is currently 9 points of value. There's an argument, and okay, never mind, he is actually using the scenario, the location rather. He could have leaded there, used the 5 points of damage onto the Defender, and then used the bomb as well as clicking, meaning he would have denied effectively all of that value. Hasn't gone down that line. Interesting. And I wonder if Bart's trying to bait the tall removal here, because he could have easily just boosted a token in place of that. The Defender doesn't have the Defender status anymore, right? So he could have placed that on a lower value unit and given less value, but has decided not to go along that line.
That's certainly true, but we're reaching a point where it might not so much be bait, because even if Morgvar comes out here, it's not going to be very good for Bart. He might actually have to commit Gord in order to catch up.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, the Bear Witch is the next play. The Bear Witcher makes sense, because again, it enables you to use that location if you want to perhaps ensure you get a pass. Decides not to, leaves it where it is, doesn't have to worry about the heal right now. It does still have the resilient status. I think he'd rather hold that through into the next round if he can, but he doesn't need to.
Now, let's see, how many nature cards do we have left? What can Falb draw here?
And there are the 4 of them for you. There are the 4 of them, and I'm guessing this should go on one of the lower value targets, on one of the ones, really. Okay, effectively the same thing. I wish Tailbot had kept Lambert in this list. Lambert right now, look at the potential value. The number of tokens it could have hit. The number of tokens it could have hit.
It is quite significant, isn't it? It is quite significant. Lambert is going to become meta pretty soon, and it would have been fun seeing him here. But alas, we get Eskel. It's all good.
Okay. I mean, at the moment, Tailbot clearly, I don't think he keeps his card here. But just takes the easy play, stays ahead, makes sense. He doesn't want to commit Gord, obviously.
No, of course not. Gord will win you a short round as long as you have last say.
I mean, if you're Tailbot here, the Morgvarg's huge on Figgis, and if he goes all in with the location heal, and then he uses his leader to remove effectively 7 points of value on that token at the front, with the 5 jumping out, he goes in. Okay.
Yeah, you kind of have to accept here as Tailbot that you're either going for the 2-0 or you're losing round 3. So you have to hope he didn't draw his good cards.
And he is going all in.
He did.
He is going all in.
And he will likely commit his leader, I believe.
He does. We remove that for extra value. Jumps out as well. Do you take the damage line? You do take the damage line and heal. So Tailbot has decided, I am going to see if you have the points, sir. He's effectively got 13 on board, 2 leader charges. And does he get out here?
Oh, he very well can. He very well can. By the way, I love that play from Tailbot with Morgvarg. I love it so much. I don't often see people using Blaze of Glory to throw Morgvarg into the graveyard so he gets into the melee row. That's quite fun to see. And we catch up. We catch up quite nicely here for Bart. Alright, so this is going to be a short round 3.
Oof. So, he does retain his card. But he's drawn very well, and Bart has drawn very poorly here. Bart will desperately be looking for the final stage of Ethne. Oh, there she is. The Hammer Dryad goes, the Cat Witcher turns up. Maxi now just represents a 6-point body. Oh, Geralt now. I don't think Geralt is bricked. That's a nice hand from Tailbot here, and the push giving leader feels like it could be very, very worth it in the end here.
Oh, Bart has an exceptionally nice hand, like you said.
Really
I think it depends how tall his units go here. His biggest is going to be a 6 for now. He is going to have to choose where he places his leader charges, likely on the
There's a
Dryads.
Bear Witcher left. Fantastic. The Bear Witcher coming out for Tailbot is massive here, because it comes out with a shield, as we saw in the previous match, which means it does not damage itself, but removes one of those ticks. Feels really nice. He loses the point of value, but effectively gains the point of value because it's reduced symbiosis, as we can see. Nice. That's very, very nice there for Tailbot. And hand-to-hand, he's in a pretty good situation, although he cannot place... Tryggvi isn't going to do a lot of damage because Veil interrupts. So,
Exactly.
it has to go on the Cat Witcher. Do you have to play that Cat Witcher last if you're Bart and accept that it's going to find less value so that it doesn't get hit here?
Well, you kind of have to assume he has Tryggvi in hand for that to happen. It's difficult because the Witcher isn't going to get value constantly anyway, because Tailbot is stacking in the range row, which makes sense. He decides to do it anyway. I mean, the Witcher doesn't die. It doesn't die because it's boosted.
It won't die.
Unless he uses Elmar, of course, and gets value. But he has to use Tryggvi because it will only go off now. He goes for the Cat Witcher, of course, and now we see Elmar.
Yeah. And you'll armor that to deny... no, not armor, rather, just boost it to deny some of the value. But this... Tailbot now has 11 points of value effectively in hand, or 9 points of value because there isn't anything quite tall enough. And that is that. Tailbot takes it. He is now 2-0 up. Wow. Tailbot 2-0 up.
Hey, these lists are paying off. It helps to think outside of the box. And perhaps we can learn a thing or two from Tailbot and his bravery when it comes to submitting.
I think we can learn a lot from Tailbot. Oh, keg number 2, chat. We are going... How many kegs will we get through? Can we get kegs in between games? Can we get them? This is not a keg game for those who are regulars on the channel. There's no keg game.
Quick, guys.
Yeah,
before
get in quickly.
Takes back what you just said.
Get in quickly. Now, Tailbot only has lockdown left. So, Tailbot literally only has his lockdown list left. He has to get that through now. Can Bart perform the reverse sweep? To get that, Tailbot has got to get this double Maddock Nilfgaard lockdown through against Kelly, which I'm sure is what Bart will queue now going on to Red Coin. He's also got the list that we saw originally, Nature's Gift, we've just seen now, and then on top of that, Uprising, Witcher Swarm. Can he get through that, or will there be a full reverse sweep? That's going to be interesting, because it's going to be... They're tougher matchups now.
The problem is just, again, with Kelly. Kelly just doesn't find value, not with these unitless decks. It's a lot more difficult, and you often get into these matchups where people discard a few turns after each other because both are playing unitless lists, or non-interactive lists, to say the least. So Kelly tends to want to have a lot of unitless cards, as well as this double Maddock list I see before me.
He's drawn quite well in round 1. No Nero, but he has drawn okay in round 1. He's on red coin, so finding Ciri isn't the end of the world immediately, but he's drawn better than he had previously. And that Spores traded for 0 in the first match. That Spores is going to trade for a lot of value here, given how much the Viper Witcher mentors tend to grow. So it's currently 2-0 to Tailbot after that draw. Now Bart looking for the reverse sweep.
Hey, if anybody can do it, it's going to be Bart. And if anybody can 3-0 Bart, it's going to be Tailbot. So
and we start with a Maxi. Not much in the way of proactivity in this list. It's one of the things that it does struggle with. Maxi, a really useful card for that. The options in hand, you don't want to play any of the options in hand but that Maxi, really. You could, but you're trying to high roll a Viper Witcher mentor, which you don't want to do. Heron Kaduk should be for a Viper Witcher mentor, as should Artorias Vigo, and the rest really... They're not things you want to be using, so I can completely understand why that Maxi has been dropped, and he's very happy he's got a choice there. If you're Bart, you could go along the same lines, but you don't really need to. There's a lot of removal, as you say. So Kelly here, it's a case of, what effectively are you sending to the slaughter on Bart's side?
That's the thing, right? That is the thing. We are starting off with a defender. I like to see that. That's something you can definitely do if you are on red coin, because you want to win on even. What does he go for is the question. He did not draw Neuromancy. I'm thinking possibly something like a Nithrall. Nithrall is going to be a very nice engine. I doubt he's able to play Kelly this soon, as you can see Tailbot has a very unitless hand. So Kelly would find a lot of value if played now. It's far too early.
This surprises me as a choice.
Maybe get a few more units. Are you baiting Kelly by any chance?
He's used Vigo here. but he's used him for the Emissary, for the extra boost. It's a decent chunk of points. And again, he's trying to play around dominance here, I would imagine. No leader charges is quite important. So all of a sudden, playing that Nithral is a lot less value. It only hits for 1 per turn without dominance. And without those leader charges, dominance isn't as much of a thing. That's a really nice line from Tailbot. One I would not have made. Unashamedly, I would literally have seen Vigo, and I would constantly have said, Vigo is explicitly for a Viper Witcher Mentor, but we see the same thing now out of Bart, and some huge cards coming down from Tailbot to take round control here.
I like that very much, and I like the fact that they include Emissary as well as the other disloyal units a lot more. A lot of people don't actually include other units for Brathens, and Brathens has been changed so that he can only spawn the cards that you have already in your starter deck.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, Bart simply says, hey, look, I have a pact in my hand, boosts his defender, and regains that dominance after all of Tailbot's hard work. But never mind. And Tailbot just takes the pass here and says, cool, you've got to play a card that is going to play for enough points here. And the only one, in theory, is that. And he manages to get that full removal out. That's a nice Wrath there. It's the only real card, I think it's the only card in the current hand state that would have played for enough points. Kelly would have burned his own unit. None of the other engines would have ticked well. So I can see why Tailbot's taken that line here. Does he have options now, though? There are so few units in the hand of Tailbot. New players to Gwent would be looking at that thinking, he has 3 points. He has only 3 points. He does not. There are a lot of points in that hand. And there is the Red Haze. Now, Red Haze could trade for a lot of points here. Again, both missing. So there's no Aneromancy still, which feels really bad on the side of Bart there. Lots of clog potential. Of course, it's never fun
to miss your Aneromancy. And of course, we do see the Viper Witcher Mentor there. It might look like a 1-point unit for new players, but unfortunately, it is not. It is not a 1-point unit. You see Iron coming out first. That makes sense. You want to get that in the graveyard for potential round 3, or if it dies now.
And it's interesting because in this matchup, it's one of the few times that if I know it's double Maddock, so it's Nilfgaard and I see a Maddock, it's a time I would consider heatwaving the Maddock to deny value. However,
yes.
So Bart doesn't have the answer. He doesn't have the Heatwave or the Anero. And on Tailbot's side, he doesn't have the ability to create the second one anyway. One of the reasons I think he didn't play the bombs early on to purify that defender was the worry that his Maddock simply got answered. And unfortunately, he doesn't know. He doesn't have access to answer it right now, which feels really bad. If you can get that through... although, actually, that's a good... Quen could pull Letho. That's a good point. He could actually do it. He just doesn't realise that the Heatwave isn't in the hand. He expects to see that Heatwave. Keep forgetting Letho is a Witcher. He does have access.
Oh, poor Letho. Of course he's a Witcher.
Poor Letho, my apologies, yes. When I think Witcher, and it's terrible, I think the new Witcher cards, the original Witcher cards, don't come into my head instantaneously. Must retrain myself. These cards now actually exist and are completely playable thanks to the expansion.
Of course. Never forget though, Jenga is a poor normal human like the rest of us. So never make that mistake, folks. Never make that mistake.
Offensive pact here. If you are Bart here, you cannot heatwave this. And you know there are going to be 2 of these. Do you ever offensive pact here? Because it will doom the card and it will never come back. No, he simply says bye. Interesting. There was an option to do that, but it pushes him underneath the 7-card threshold, and then he has to deal with playing a lot of cards. Could have been interesting.
Yes.
Could also, of course, Purify bombed his own Maddock. There was a lot of potential, really, really 5-head plays there, and they both completely ruined my potential predictions and pass him for a long round 3. Cheers, gents. I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, I was thinking Bart was going to go for 7 cards here, and yeah, Eigen was on the board for a few seconds, and then it disappeared. I could not see what happened to it, but a Heatwave was not yet drawn, so I'm thinking Eigen is in the graveyard, although I cannot look right now. So, Ozra at least is 14.
And we see the Aneromancer. I'm curious there on Tailbot's side. He had the opportunity there, in theory, to set up the second Maddock. Could have done that because he was a card up. Obviously, he didn't need to. Oh, never mind. He's talented. He finds it anyway. But he could have, in theory, played that as carryover to guarantee that that he had access to it. It couldn't be Heatwave. There was no possible interactivity. It was completely safe. So, I'm not sure if that was a misplay, quote unquote, or whether it was just an intentional line because he felt he would be fine to do so. It's going to be interesting because I'm pretty sure the Heat Wave is sat in the deck still, but a Nero is there, and that Aneromancy is firmly for that. He's also mulliganed most of his bombs away. He's looking for pure points in this round here. He's only got one bomb.
Well, he does need points, to be fair. The bombs are nice for an uninteractive play, but you're going to want points
And
to win.
that is why Tailbot is playing around the squirrel, the inevitable squirrel. Tailbot knew it was there, hadn't got a target, and Tailbot has mulliganed the bombs away in advance, knowing that they're not going to find value. You love
Very
to
smart.
see it. That's
Very smart.
That's
You know, without that
absolutely
Mad-Up,
great.
you just lose so many points. And now Letho can be used on something else entirely.
And probably the Beast or the Phantom, right? You could do it on either of those because it can convert into any card and do exactly what it wants. So it will now take a different form, a different engine, right?
And he will have to wait. He'll have to take his time, because do you go for the Beast right now, or do you wait for something potentially better? He does go for the Phantom. Makes sense. It's not a bad card to have.
Oh, but Red Haze is huge value here now with these cards, right? You could use the Beast. You can simply kill that straight away. And because it doesn't work like Tavern Brawl, it just damages one side. Bart with the nice little BM there, I'm guessing, intends to do exactly that and kill that engine. Yikes. With
Very
those
nice
two,
value.
yeah,
Trading
those two on
up
opposite
with
rows.
full provision card. Very, very fun to see.
Yeah, that's a big trade.
So, yeah, it certainly is. Now, we can always kill that next with the coated weapons, though it can be drawn again with a Neuromancy, depending on the cards Bart wants to draw.
He packs it to protect it.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. And he yens that so that engine disappears. I can see the logic there. It's a big value card. You've got to see Siri come down pretty soon, though. Siri can't last much longer here. And a valid point, the Beast's going to come down to get some engine value. I think Siri has to be the next play. Maybe the one... Yeah, I think Siri has to be the next play here. And Tailbot will know that if we're expecting that to come through.
If we wait any longer, Siri will draw a card that you can't actually play, which is never fun. So that has to be the next play.
It does. Now, Osril not the value it should be on the other side either here. Not huge amounts of value. You've got Geralt. I mean, from Tailbot's side, there are a lot of points because he's effectively got access to 3 mentors here. Tallest in the deck right now is 10 provisions, I think. But it's obviously going to be a Siri. I mean, there are a lot of points in both hands. It looks to me with the spores and the access to just remove some of them. I mean, this looks more favourable for Bart, but I've thought that in the last 3 games, and Tailbot keeps pulling it out, so it's going to be interesting. There's the first. Nice, easy 10-point mentor. Yeah. 2 more. Next.
Well, Bart has the option of using a Neuromancy now to pull out that 10 provision card.
Yeah.
Does he do it is the question. I wish I could see what's left over. I should make more notes, as we don't have the client to help us right now. We're watching with a delay. But some people would play their larger cards earlier, merely so that the mentor doesn't get that sort of value.
Yeah.
Do we ever see that happen now? We can't really see Kelly yet.
I don't think he needs to.
Spores. That makes sense.
Guaranteeing the spores value makes sense here. He's always going to find value from that spores, but remember, if he chooses to use it, it can simply just get put back in the deck with the go through Kaved ability. So, and that's actually quite nice, because that frees up what is usually quite a bad... You don't want to see that spy in hand if you're Tailbot, because it plays into something like a spores. And also, now that you've got that on the other side of the board, we see Kelly going back row to not burn. Just a 9-point Kelly. Nice.
Okay, well, we often see that. You can't always play Kelly in the melee row. It won't help very much if you have more units than your opponent, but it still plays for 9, which is quite a lot, and Surrey Dash is still there. Surrey Dash is going to get value.
Yeah, I can't see around Bart winning this at this point. I know I've been thinking this every game. I think Bart is in a really good position here. Tailbot's got some good cards. He's effectively got 22 more points, so he can play effectively 2 more Viper Witcher Mentors, Geralt, and then another one. But there's the ability to Heat Wave from the Aneromancy to remove one of them. The Beast is going to keep growing.
No, Bart certainly takes this one. I don't think there's any
it.
catching up from this point on.
It does look like it. It's been a very different game this time. So
Yeah,
as soon
and
as
Bart's in a good position now because he can choose any deck to play with, and he can decide his own little matchups right now. So he
Yeah.
purposely took Kelly to play against Lockdown, and it's working out very nicely for me on red coin. I wonder
Makes
what he
sense.
takes for blue coin. Perhaps we see some Northern Realm Witches coming out soon.
Maybe Northern. Yeah, that could be what he chooses to take on blue coin. Oswald having to go front row, as we said. No Eigen been played. Still plays for a decent chunk of points for Bart there. Ooh, not a terrible pull. Not terrible at all. 6 points of value. Another 10 for Tailbot. But the heat wave alone should be enough to take this. Bart claws back in. Being 2-0 up in Gwent, as in football, not always the safest of results. So he will be very, very happy here. The reverse sweep potentially is on.
It has merely started, guys. Get your hot chocolate ready, get the popcorn. We're going to be here for a very long time.
It looks like it.
And Bart takes the game. Very nice to Bart. And that's Kelly out of the matchup. So we can now either see Northern Realm Witches, or we can see...
More importantly, we see a keg. Rapid fire kegs from Mr. Repek here, who is controlling the observer. Oh, this was not an official keg game, to clarify, chat. There is no opportunity to win subs right now. That will be tomorrow.
Yes, there is.
That will be tomorrow.
Right
If you could guess quick enough, and we are going in again. So, as we know, Tailbot has to keep taking this list. He is now taking this list through his lockdown list, and he's going to be taking it through on more favoured, I think, for Tailbot. He's going to be going second with this. But you'd imagine of the two lists, he's now got a choice to make. Does he go for what's best in this matchup? I.e., does he take Northern Realm Witches here thinking, I've got a better chance of getting this through on blue than I do the gift list, and try and take gift through on red? I mean, if you're Bart, you probably do. He tried gift the first time and lost against SK. Does he feel like NR is going to be a better matchup for it because the leader is less...
Well, I think he needs to think ahead here. He needs to think, okay, what if I win this matchup and I have to take a third option on red coin?
Exactly, what's better on red, right?
With, Northern Realm Witches on red coin, or am I more comfortable with Nature's Gift?
Which I think is gift, right?
Yeah, that's what he's deciding right now, because he does have to win both of them in order to take it. So yeah, which one is less favored on red coin is the question. I know Northern Realm Witches loves a good blue coin because that
Griffin Witcher is so
nice.
good. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we see. I'd be surprised if we don't see the queue here. Bart will probably take NR Witches. It would make sense. It would make sense. And that is... Oh no, that doesn't make sense. Repek, help.
Oh dear. What now? What now?
Chat. We are having technical difficulties. 2 seconds, chat.
Are we? Everything's fine on my side.
1 sec. And we're back! Phew.
Yay.
Technical support. We're in 2 seconds. Don't panic, chat. We fixed it. No keg games needed.
We are right here, not as good helping
It's completely
us,
safe. We are fine. Everything is okay. It repaired in mere seconds. Instant save, chat. Instant save. And we do see it was just to build the tension of what they picked. Don't worry.
Of course.
And we were correct, so it's fine. Bart now finds the instant opening play. Doesn't even think about it. We haven't even had the ready start screen disappear yet before that Griffin Witcher gets veiled and slammed front row.
Of course. That's the correct play, isn't it? And I like to see that we have another option of giving a Griffin Witcher doomed. We have that as well, right there in hand. The problem is our Griffin Witcher won't survive very long on its own.
No.
There are too many bombs in the hand of Tailbot at the moment.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't choose to purify that. Because he could have moon dusted that, right? So I suppose he's holding the moon dust because of how scary the normal engines can be. I suppose he has to hold on to those. He's hoping that he can get value with just 2 4-point removals and doesn't end up being able to do that.
Yeah, that certainly is. I mean, we still have Fortune Teller in hand. It depends what he's holding it for. He knows exactly why he wants what he wants. There are quite a few cards you have to be able to remove in this sort of list, especially something like Helder.
Oh, there it is. Now, I suppose that's doomed Maddock right now. Maddock is now gone. Or do you end up now having to purify and destroy your own Maddock here as Tailbot? Is that ever something you consider doing? Because as soon as that's gone now, it is gone. Do you purify bomb your own Maddock? Depends on how much Tailbot is looking to rely on these bombs. If this was the end of round 2, maybe not. Instead, he just says, cool, I'll just have a stronger second one. Thanks. Doesn't need to worry about it.
It also certainly depends on whether Tailbot wants round control, which is pretty important because a long round of Northern Realm Witches, or even a short round if left unchecked, is pretty deadly. But he does get that second Maddock. Always nice to see. 5 points right there. At least he did draw the correct cards, or else that might not have been possible so quickly.
Very true. Interesting. The short round of NR Witches is strong in general because of the amount of carryover they can develop with things like Erland, Vess. But normally the leader ability can play into that quite a lot as well. So losing that is going to be a big... it'll certainly hurt NR Witches. Not as much as some of the other lists maybe, but it'll hurt the short round more than perhaps some of the others. The amount of carryover that this list can generate, though, is very, very scary. It's just, can the engine survive long enough to trade for value? That's going to be the question. Tailbot does have some cloggers chances as well. Not as many. And do you ever play slow tempo and try and throw one of those tokens into Bart's list instead? Maybe, but it's very, very slow. Or do you, if you're Tailbot here, you're on the good coin. Oh.
I mean...
Wow, Tailbot just gives up round control flat up and says, okay, I'm out. No problem at all.
That's extremely interesting to see.
Yeah, not what I thought at all.
Play. I thought he would push until we got to Adrenaline 3 so he could play those Viper Witcher Mentors, which might have put him ahead or forced Bart to commit quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that's extremely interesting.
I suppose
we'll see why.
The early pass against NR Witches isn't always terrible because you can deny carryover. He doesn't know how many of those cards he's got in hand. He doesn't necessarily want to get to the point where you can just drop a card like Vesemir and it trades for value. Erland can be dropped at any point to trade for value, so if you're Tailbot, you're looking at this and thinking, okay, you have less value now. I'm just going to get out of here so that you can't take all of it through into the next round. Be interesting, is that worth giving up the round control? I guess we're going to find out.
We certainly will find out.
Nice.
Well, he didn't have time to play Erland, so his cards aren't automatically boosted, meaning Scytheman will find his value as well as the Witcher Trio, and it seems he already drew Vesemir right there. And he plays Erland immediately. Correct choice.
And there we go. We now have some carryover, and red is deciding. So, Tailbot is deciding here. But what is he deciding? He's played Maxi Van Decker straight off the bat. He's now working out whether he chooses to click. That is the order of cards in Tailbot's deck. So, at the moment, he's mulliganing into some pretty good cards if he's Tailbot, and not many bombs. So you probably just confirm the choice here. Or I would probably confirm that choice here.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played Maxi a lot myself. It's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? It could end up shuffling cards even worse back, but at least you get to put one on the bottom of your deck, so you're guaranteed not to draw a said card. I don't know. I quite like the cards he has in hand there in the specific order they are, but hey, perhaps he chooses to actually use Maxi there.
I mean, it depends on how much he's reliant on the Brathens. The Brathens was the last card that he just struggled with, right? So, and that's interesting from Bart. First, AA throws that card out so that he doesn't accidentally draw it, and gives himself the potential situation where he can just decide to get out here and not worry too much. It's a good card to play if it's your first De Niro. Also, I've just noticed Bart's card back. They look fantastic from this journey. Oh my lord, that looks gorgeous.
It is a gorgeous card back, isn't it? Definitely worth the Yennefer journey. Although most of us are, of course, waiting for Triss. This is common sense.
Of course.
But we'll get there. It's still a beautiful card back.
And we get the Maddock. So jumps out. It's a 5-point Maddock now, remember, not a 3-point Maddock. There it is. It's stronger. Now, a 5-point Maddock's interesting because every time you click it, you're effectively losing 2 points yourself unless you can guarantee another bomb is there. So it's definitely an interesting line. He's never hitting Erland there and giving him another one because that would be not the right play. So not really a bleed, not really a push of any description, just Bart playing for carryover there, going, cool, I can drop some cards, I can thin my deck a little. And a long round 3 against NR Witches. Oof.
You don't want to see that. I was thinking he'd go for that.
Oh.
Also, his hand wasn't ideal there. I don't think Calder survives for long, but still, the more witches we get on board, the better.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice mulligan. There are no bricks on the one side.
Okay.
Ooh, but we do have a lot of decent-looking control on the other. We've got multiple bombs that, in theory, you could click Maddock. You've also got Heatwave. You've got Yen. I mean, there are a lot of points on Tailbot's side of the board. You never want to see Cynthia in round 3, really. It doesn't provide a great deal of help for you, unfortunately. It's definitely an earlier card.
6 points. It could be worse. But it's not a brick per se. It just doesn't really do what it's supposed to do anymore.
Yeah.
But hey, 6 points is 6 points.
Beggars
can't be choosers.
Very true. I think I'd rather be Bart right now. If I'm... I mean, they've both drawn pretty much what they want, but he's managed to get the Witcher trio without bricking, effectively. He took his last mulligan as well, which is always nice to see. An early Gothra Gaved. Wow. And he takes the Alchemist instead.
Okay, let's see.
He's given him Brathens, and he take... Obviously, Brathens is going to be useless. It's just a 4-point card.
Okay, interesting.
And he knows he can't get it himself. But all he gets is that. I think he was probably hoping for perhaps one of the Witcher trio. He knows, obviously, either way it's a boosted card that he can't get.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Well, the thing is, Northern Realm Witchers are quite good, even against Lockdown. I find that they consistently give you the same sort of results. Although we are playing against a double Madoc deck, which aren't that prevalent on the ladder, they're getting more popular by the day, though. I think Bart is in a very good position here. A very good position.
Huge brain from Tailbot. He's just put I think, is Brathens 12 provisions? It's a 12 provision card that is unaccessible. Oh no, it's 10 provisions, fair enough. He can now play these early. Oh, my lord, Tailbot just seeing lines that... incredible. You love to see it. You love to see it. He's just decided to swap. I can't use this now. You may as well take this now, and I'm going to be able to play my mentors nice and early. I like that line. Normally, I would have used the scenario instead. I'd have held later so that I could put back a taller unit that I knew they couldn't grab. But no, doesn't need to do that. He has decided he wants to play that out nice and early. I don't know. I'm still favouring NR in a long round, but it depends on if the engines survive. That's the issue, right?
The thing is, he has a lot of control, so he's going to get rid of some of these units off the bat. I don't think Calder ever survives here. There's no way it survives. We still have Heat Wave, we still have Yennefer Invocation, so Calder isn't going to get a lot of value, but I suspect he'll be keeping that until he has Adrenaline 4. He won't be playing it any earlier than he needs to, but he does get his Viper Witcher Mentors. He's saying Adrenaline 3 is not enough, guys. I have Adrenaline 7. That's what I want CDPR.
Viper Witcher Mentors, Adrenaline 7. You saw it here first. You love to see it. Nice.
Makes sense. CDPR, make notes. Make notes.
Yeah,
need this
coming
to be
soon.
buffed now.
Interesting. And so there's a lot of issues in terms of when you choose to play certain cards here, because Adrenaline comes in as a factor. He's dropped this down, has no interest in the shield, and is simply... Oh, now he never uses that Brathens, right? Yeah, the Brathens has to go back. So now... So the Brathens has gone back. It's boosted, which is a shame, because obviously he's never going to get to draw it, but it now is additional points sat in the deck. Makes no real difference there. I don't think it shuffles it back. I could be wrong. And it's an interesting line, actually. Tailbot's list, in theory, has a little bit of greed in it. And I've just pinged this. I'm going to give Spessy the credit for this one. There are 4 bronze engines, not 3 in Tailbot's list, which is weird because it doesn't guarantee the Vigo, and you really want that Vigo guaranteed. All the versions of this I've seen give you that guaranteed mentor, so that's a really interesting one there. Brathens isn't top any longer, but again, that doesn't really matter. Obviously, that's been shuffled back in. And we do see Madoc locked, which really lowers the value of the bombs in hand.
Yeah, that's an extremely nice lock right there with Margarita actually finding value. Definitely seeing that he still has a few bombs left.
Yeah.
Well, Cynthia now is played, doesn't do much, but hey, it's still 6 points.
No, that's true. And there you
didn't
go.
Draw his, Prince Anzi's. I quite like to have seen that, actually.
Anzi's is one of those cards. He sits in the deck very frequently. NR's old problem, drawing your golds. You get lots of them, but Amphibious Assault even plays into 9 provisions or less. So those top-end golds can be really tough to find sometimes.
That's the thing with Amphibious Assault, right? You can only get so many provisions. You can only get so many. And hey, a lot of people take both Amphibious Assaults and a Neuromancy at some point. Back when the meta allowed it, but now people are getting more greedy with cards like Adelant, which is very necessary when it comes to carryover in this sort of deck.
Yeah, very much so. Now, if you're looking at this as... So Tailbot's now is making a decision here. Oh, sorry, no, it's still Bart. So, no, it is Tailbot. He's put that back in the deck. There's no access to it, so now we've guaranteed an even taller unit. That is 12 provisions now, which he's now going to pull out, play this for 12 because he knows that that's sat there. We have gone full scale rope. He finds the value on that. It's a lot of points. A lot of points there. He used the scenario to do that. That's how that's ended up back in deck. Kelda.
A solid 12 right there.
I mean, Kelda goes,
yeah, I
right?
see that being done quite a bit, and it's also very easy to do, seeing that Adelant is preferably played round 1, so it's going to be in your graveyard, and shuffling it back after he's used all of his tutors is quite fun to do. Okay, so we now go with Yennefer. Makes sense.
There are a lot more points than it looks like on Bart's side of the board. That Northern Wind, really sad, coming out for 4, effectively. Denies 1 point of boosted unit, which, if there is a Scytheman in hand, which we know there is a lot of points. Leo, again, trading for huge value, and Amphibious Assault. That Heatwave goes straight onto the 12. I'm guessing you AA first here? Or are you just dropping the Scytheman? Okay, just drops the Scythe. I mean, it's game Bart. It is game Bart, and it's 2-2. It is 2-2.
It is game Bart. Takes it, long round against Lockdown, normally tends to win. It was decided before the game started, Tailbot, but very good game.
That is not what you want to see, right? If you're finishing, what's my final card? It's a 3-point salmon bomb. Nope. Bart decides he wants a 14-point Scytheman, and we go in to a final game. Albeit this is actually the 5th game. No, the 6th game, because we had a tie. So we know what we're going to see. It's guaranteed to be Lockdown on blue, and it is against Nature's Gift Devotion on red here.
Yes, and Bart specifically chose that one. He thought he's most comfortable on red coin when it comes to the Nature's Gift deck, and not the Northern Witches deck. I see Shoop opening another card.
Yeah, he gets another keg.
Oh, he gets the second best bronze in the game. The best now, of course, being the Griffin Witcher, as we all know.
And we go straight... Okay, so this is in theory the final game of this final. The winner of this goes through and has booked their place in Open number 1. The loser of this will go on then to play another best of 5 straight after this, which we will also be casting. So who gets through at the first hurdle and who has to start all over again? Here we go. This is going to be interesting. Tailbot on blue here, going first with this list. There's not a huge amount of proactivity sat in this list. So he does. That's one of the reasons why the Tortoise is there. The Tortoise is interesting because of the problems that it can give you in terms of your Vigo, but it is another proactive play, which I can kind of see the logic, I guess. Oh, and he has another mulligan to get rid of that Maddock. That was the quickest mulligan you would ever see.
Of course, you never want to see that. That's not a fun brick. It's not the end of the world, but it's a wasted card, essentially.
Yeah, and he didn't have to make much decision there. He starts with his only proactive play. Pretty happy. And on the other side, okay, so you've got a lot of good cards in hand there. You've got cards you don't want to spend, though, as well. It's a very strong hand, but a weird one for round 1 in Lockdown. You look at the Hammer Dryad. You can't protect this Hammer Dryad. It comes down, it dies, the end. Dunker, you could play Dunker and thin your deck, do some damage, boost your own Dunker. Again, slightly problematic. So what's...
That's a problem, right? Lockdown actually finds value in this sort of matchup. It's a bit debilitating. You could get away with it if you're playing Northern Witches, but when it comes to Nature's Gift, it's a different story, because you also lose that inherent symbiosis as well, which is going to make those tokens a bit more difficult to find.
Yeah, very true. And instantly, not even thinking about it, I'm going to purify that defender, sir, and my Maddock is going to jump where? To the wrong row. You love to see it.
Of course, that's the way it goes.
A big Pavko straight away, but we can see Tailbot has drawn his Letho. So we are going to finally get double Maddock, and they're both going to be sat where you want them. I'm assuming that's the line he's going to go with here. I might be wrong, no. And he plays it onto the row he wants as well. I can assure you that is a Maddock, chap. There you go. It is confirmed, and Maddock has now popped out of the shadows. It was all part of the animation, really, I promise.
It's always fun actually drawing your Lethal Kingslayer round 1 because you immediately start getting that extra Maddock value every time you play a bomb, and he has so many bombs in hand. This is quite good for Tailbot. Tailbot is in a good position, I'd like to think.
I think that's good value for Pavko Gale there, but in the event that we now get a spy on board, which we can do, there will no longer only be Scoia'tael units on Bart's side, and it will deny 50% of the damage value there on Pavko. So he could simply just take a Hamadryad of his own for the sake of it, and deny engine value from Bart for the whole way of this. It's definitely an option. He could also just decide, I'm going to click my Maddocks, I'm going to play a bomb, I'm not really fussed about this engine right now. But it's definitely an option that he could take here. Which way does he go?
Yeah, the thing about Pavko is you also have the opportunity of pinging your own units, which is sometimes worth it if you're going into a long round and you want that extra value. So he might just opt to do that, or he now goes for the bomb and tries to take it out entirely, which I think he might do.
Interesting, we didn't click the other. We didn't click the other Maddock there, which is interesting because the other Maddock could also have jumped to the other row if he made that decision. Decides not to. Decides to hold it there, so that it's effectively threatening on both rows. Interesting choice.
Certainly very interesting. Alright, I guess, well, Pavko would be the next target, I'm thinking, and now Fav is... What is Fav going to do? Is it ever going to be protecting Burza, or are we going to see Heatwave coming out and just getting rid of it in its entirety?
That was rapid. That was instant. That was a thank you, see you later, no more Burza. And I think the reason Bart's chosen to boost the token instead, other than to avoid the greed line, he expects removal to go there. So to play the boost on there to protect it in a list where you know there is complete tour removal just doesn't seem like the right line. But at the moment, again, really clever. The points are even, Bart effectively even and a point ahead because of that vitality there. So now forcing this to keep going deeper.
The problem here is with Bart is after Nature's Rebuke, he's getting into the commitment area. Not one he wants to be in. He has Forest Protector, he has Gord, Isengrim's Council, as well as Ethne in her first form. And he still doesn't have Symbiosis because of the leader lock. So he's not getting any tokens every time he plays a nature card. Not very nice for him. I think Tailbot just pushes here until Bart passes, in all honesty.
I think Bart's likely to pass sooner rather than later here. He may drop that Rebuke first. Interesting, huge value on the Moondust taking all of that power away. The Maddock... I'm curious. There must be a line that I'm missing that he isn't clicking the front Maddock to try and get it to spawn to the back row. So far, all of the Maddocks have done exactly what he wanted, which is good. The back row Maddock keeps going where he wants it to, which is really good for him. But the front row Maddock, I guess he just wants to keep it there to potentially discourage him from playing front row. Something like a Dunker, if it exists, maybe. He knows that it's going to die with a Maddock ping, so maybe he wants it there. And again, it goes straight to the back row. Wow.
It certainly is interesting. It is interesting because the chances that Maddock goes back into the melee row is just as possible.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like you say. I wonder. We could definitely ask him. We can ask him after this game at some point. Ask him why he kept it in the melee row instead of letting it potentially fall into the range row and get more points.
Makes sense.
Very interesting.
Bart here on red coins. Yeah, it does. Bart doesn't want to play any more of those cards, and he's on red coins, so he doesn't lose on even. I think he's quite happy getting out there. He knows, obviously, now he has to play in, potentially get bled, but I think he'd be much happier than committing those cards to potentially still lose the round.
Yes, definitely. He's got all his cards. He's got a very strong hand right there. So he's not very bad off. So, okay, he shuffles away the Hamadryad, interestingly. Obviously, that doesn't survive a very long time, especially without your leader.
Wow, and there is no question, blue is deciding instantly, and that is a Maxi Van Decker on the dry pass. So this is the lineup that would have been the draws for Tailbot, so I'm going to guess he might have shuffled that. He's decided, I'm going to go straight in. I'm going to play here, not even thinking, do I bleed or not? So it's all well and good for Bart to have a really strong hand, but now he has to play it to resist a bleed, which can be quite scary.
Hey, he very well can. I don't know if he's resisting the bleed, really, seeing that he has to commit most of his cards. But if he can keep up, that would be great. He still has an extra card then. Question
And I
is,
think
what
he
does he
will.
start off with? Does he ever play Ethne now?
He does. And we haven't seen a single Gezrus so far. We've watched him play this list multiple times. No Gezrus has been seen at all. Oh, wow. That's really nice value. And those Maddocks with the bombs in hand are going to trade for some serious value here.
Oh, that's very nice. Very nice.
Wow.
It's nice moving them as well, so your Maddox can potentially get more value, but of course the range row is, again, empty now. But hey, we've got a Maddox on every row, so he can pick his pick. Perhaps he keeps the range one right there and doesn't use it.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. And again, you have to, that's a decision he's decided to take. I'm just looking here. It's really interesting because normally Brathens would be a potential problem now, but the emissary existing means that he can just play it. He's got an emissary in deck, so he gets the boost, effectively the 6 points from it as well. Ooh, Sage is a good card.
It's not bad. It's not bad. He might try and get rid of Sage here. He might try and high roll and see if he can get that Maddock value. Yeah. I mean, he'd like to use Maddock now anyway, right? You want to get rid of that Dryad. It gives too much value if left unchecked. And no, he instead decides just to get ahead right there with Viper Witcher Mentor.
Interesting. And the Viper Witcher Mentor's a lot of points. He does decide to play that Maddock, but obviously holds the other one. Makes sense to see how much damage. Ooh, and it is 5 points of damage there onto that one. Now, I mean, the Sage boosts by 2 for every special card you play. So he is now, I'd imagine, going to boost the 2-point unit here. And maybe he just goes +8. No, he takes the Vitality ticks as well, knowing I think that all the Moon Dusts are gone, that's a line he can take with the +2 and the single Symbiosis spawn, because of course there is a Symbiosis engine.
Yes, there's only Northern Wind left, which would banish a unit on Deathblow, but there's nothing to banish here.
No.
Bart is definitely holding his own here. Question is, does Tailbot play all of his cards, or does he decide to pass at some point and keep Brathens?
That's the tough thing. It depends on his read. Does he feel he's got enough left to still win if he's committing multiple of these? The Viper Witcher Mentor's so good in a short round. Does he just keep pushing him and he's ahead? The risk is, of course, as you say, he loses his card if he's not careful. So he has to be really mindful here.
Yeah, the question is also how far can you push him? Is he really going to get gourd value at this rate?
We're going to get another 12 points. Another, 13 points from that. Vigo, wow, that's so many points coming down. I mean, Bart, I'm pretty sure, still gets out here, but Gord only being 8, 9, 10. So Gord will be worth 10 points effectively at this point by the time it's played, if the push is all the way down here. Forest Protector is a decent amount of points as well. And Bart decides to take the slower tempo play. Interesting choice. But it's actually not terrible. It's a good time to play if you're going to get pushed all the way down. He gets the Vitality ticks. It pings on Sage as well, which is always nice.
It's ironic the fact that Gezras is giving these Viper Witcher Mentors 12 points, merely because he hasn't drawn Gezras yet. It's the only 12 vision card he has left in his deck. So that doesn't help. It doesn't help if you don't draw your cards, folks.
It really doesn't. So if you're Bart here, so does Bart, what does he choose here? Is it Gord you're getting rid of now? Gord is 9 points. The 2 ticks of Vitality are enough. Is Gord potentially the card you keep or the card you save? Forest Protector's more points, but you need a target. There must be a target. He does take the Gord line.
Okay. Not bad. Not bad.
Mentors are actually worth more than Gord. Yikes. Oh.
Okay, so what do we draw, and is it enough to take us to the open? This is what it's coming down to, folks. This is it.
Tailbot's mulligans are scary here, because I don't know how many he has left in deck, Witcher-wise. Can he brick this Geralt if he takes a mulligan here? I think he can. I think he can brick this if he's not careful, which is why he's holding this. There are only 6 cards he can see, and I believe there is only 1 left. So we do see Gezrus, not as great in this situation. Wow, he takes it. And he never punished. Never punished. Love to see it. Okay, so he has only 1 Viper Witcher Mentor, and then lots and lots of removal. Interesting.
This is going to be interesting. Well, do you ever play Gezras now? It certainly doesn't survive. Will you find more value if you perhaps keep it for last and just stack everything
Yeah.
into the same row?
I think you have to. I think you just have to go for max value here. And that's one of the reasons why, of course, that's gone front row instead. You'd expect to see Tailbot play exclusively in the range row to play around that Gezras. You'd expect Bart to play as much as possible into the range row as well to boost himself. So that makes sense.
Of course.
There's no
And that
Treant
emissary
spawns, though.
next in the melee row also makes sense. Denies 1 point from Gezras. I just wonder when Gezras is being played, because you also have to assume Tailbot did draw his control cards, which he has plenty of. You have to assume he at least has one coated weapon in hand.
And we go Forest Protector here, plays into the back row, goes for Tempering so that we get maximum value on that instead. Makes sense, because there would have been no Death Blow. I can see the line there. Ooh, now you've got to be careful. That Nature's... The ability to tutor a card in hand is really scary. Bart, and that's why we don't see the Death Blow here. The Death Blow onto that Forest Protector could have been terrifying, because we could have seen another Forest Protector, which is why he can't possibly go down that line to remove a unit and potentially deny value. And it's one of the reasons why Gezras will actually be a really tough card to remove here.
Yeah, Gezras is going to get quite a bit of points. It's actually looking a bit scary here for Tailbot.
Do you kill that now as Tailbot? Because if you read that he can tutor it again, it just gets played again, right?
That's the thing, right? That's the thing. You get extra control with coated weapons, but you also risk placing him back into the deck in such a way that it can be tutored right back. This is a problem. He has to take a chance.
Do you remove it now, or do you wait one more turn because it's doing nothing the next turn? No, he doesn't remove it now. He waits because it's doing nothing this turn but moving anyway, and you hope.
Of course, yeah.
And in fact, either way, it's never being removed now. He's taken the 5-point removal on a dwarf effectively. Never has to worry about it. He cannot afford to remove that Gezras and give the opponent another Gezras. He's hoping basically that Maddock carries here. Maddock carrying. The movement on Kieran, actually really nice. Plays into it a little. Maddock right now, if they both spawn on the back row when he plays this Maddock. Not both, okay. But it spawned the right way. You never click it anyway. I don't suppose he ever clicks them, he just plays them for 8. Wait. Oh my god, he's got a Viper Witcher Mentor, he still wins. Tailbot is going to take this. Oh my lord. Tailbot is going to take this. That's a decent chunk of points. It's another 2, another 3, 4, 5. But if there is, and I believe there is a Viper Witcher Mentor on the other side, which is what an FNA has gone back into the deck with the scenario. Tailbot.
It's going to be 14 points.
Was there ever any doubt that who was going to take the very first seat in open number 1? Well, it's Tail God himself, the winner. 3-2 against teammate Bart. Tail God takes it. Wow.
I mean, what did we expect? Out of all these lists, his was most deserving. He went out of his way to play something unique, off meta. Everyone will be playing his decks tomorrow, I assure you. Especially the one we didn't see, which is Arachasum.